Hey everyone. So, what I'm about to share with you right now is a little eerie and very cool. This is a clip from a class that I taught back in January and February of 2021. It's the Power of Progressions course. So, we're talking about secondary progressions. Here, specifically, we're talking about the Progressed Lunation Cycle of Kamala Harris. So, this was recorded, like I said, in the winter of 2021. And this is when I, among also like other astrologers, took notice of her chart and how it looked very favorable for her professionally and how it looked likely that she would continue to climb professionally in influence and presence. So here is a little clip of that video. And like I said, it's kind of spooky, but also really cool. So here it is. And if you like what you see, you can get that course on my website, catherineurban.com. It's a 10-hour self-paced course. So anyway, hope you enjoy. I want to look at this current cycle here. So here is the next progressed new moon that she has. And that one is at 11 degrees Sagittarius. Now, if you look, it's really close to the south node, which means that this is an eclipse. And if you're following along in your ephemeris, you will see that there is an eclipse here on December 4th. And yeah, that is at 11 degrees Sagittarius. Now, if you remember, I'm recording this in early 2002. We just completed a nodal cycle with the eclipses here. So there was very recently an eclipse at 12 degrees Sagittarius. So this has been repeated now that she is president in real time. So that is just fascinating for me. But let's take a look at Kamala Harris's career through the lens of the progressed new moon cycle. So this is 2008. She's starting a new beginning. This is the seventh house. Seventh house we know deals with partnership, but it's also very much a communication house, where we see a lot around charisma, debating, being able to negotiate, diplomacy, tact. There's something adventurous about this too, being in the sign of Sagittarius. So it's kind of neat because we know that the first, she became a progressed sun in Scorpio for a long time. So there's something about, taking her journey very seriously. In the sixth house of work and effort and self-cultivation, there's something here now of visibility. So the progressed sun is above the horizon. There's something visible about it. And, the seventh house is house of opponents, becoming a formidable opponent. So let's look at this progressed new moon. This progressed new moon, again, is aspecting that natal Uranus, this time by a square. And also I have a note about her progressed Mars. So her progressed Mars is also activating this natal Uranus. So there's something here about shattering the glass ceiling, as I mentioned. And we know that she did that by becoming the first female vice president, also the first African American and Indian American to hold this office. So there is something very revolutionary about that. But there's also something here, as we can see, with this double activation of Uranus. And it's so, so important because this is starting a whole 30-year cycle with the progressed new moon. So here we are. We have in November of 2008, so just 2 months later, so the progressed moon would then be heading toward Pluto, actually. She announces that she will run for California Attorney General. She wins and becomes the first woman, the first African American, and the first South Asian American to hold this position in California. So how freaking cool is that? So her progressed new moon cycle begins around shattering these political structures and becoming a formidable stakeholder in politics. So we're definitely pulling in the Uranian theme. We can also see here that her progressed ascendant is about to change from Cancer, which is a little bit more private, and moving into Leo. So as she is sworn in, her progressed ascendant is changing signs into Leo. So we see her, she's a Gemini rising. And we can see that in her sparkly eyes. But she is now a Leo. And you can see, she stands very confidently. That some of that might be coming from that Aries moon too. But I don't know. She's got the look. She's got the hair. She always looks good, and she always looks confident, and she speaks very confidently. And I think that that is a lot about the progressed ascendant, learning to bring a little bit more pizzazz, being willing to be seen a little bit more in Leo. So I'm sure if you look, there is a change with her look around that time too. I have not looked at that though. So let's see, what is next for Miss Harris? So then we reached the Crescent phase. So as you can see, this is 2008, fall of 2008. Crescent phase is fall of 2012. So each phase is going to last about 3 years. We're going to see about 7 years between each cross quarter. So we have 3 years here. So what's going on with her crescent moon? Now, at this juncture, it's not as important, okay, she's officially in her crescent moon. It's not as important the exact aspects that the moon is making. That's really just important with the new moon. But you can kind of look at, well, what else is the moon going to do when it's in the sign of Aquarius? And that is actually where, our modulus strip comes in handy. So I have the 90-degree one. So we know that when the progressed moon enters fixed signs, that's going to be from 30 to 60. So we know that the progressed moon is going to start by making hard aspects. Remember, the 90-degree modulus will only show hard aspects. So that's the benefit of using the 30-degree one. If you want to look at trines and sextiles, which is also great to do. But here we can look at the hard aspects. So the progressed moon, when it reaches Aquarius, is going to first aspect Mercury, then Neptune, then Mars, then it's going to be Jupiter, and lastly, Saturn. So we know, if you want to get an idea, say that your progressed moon, say this is your chart, your progressed moon has entered your 9th house. You know that, studying, developing your understanding for something is going to be important. So, here there might be something law related, something about her beliefs, her morals. We can look and see, add more flavor to what that journey is going to compose of, because we could say this is going to be a 2-year focus for her. But what else is going to be happening there? That's where you can look at, the hard aspects it's going to be making, as well as the trining, very supportive aspects. So you can bet that when the progressed moon gets close to Saturn, it's going to be making a grand air trine. There's something pretty important there about those degrees. So you can note that that is probably going to be an important month in the life, or a few months in the life. So that's another way to look at the progressed moon, It's journey through an individual house that's going to tell you about a general area of focus. So when it reaches the 10th house, that's going to be a lot about your career and your visibility. The 11th house, your colleagues, who your professional connections are, where you find a sense of belonging. The 12th house, seclusion, healing, processing. So you could take those general house significations that we all know very well, and you could study the journey of the progressed moon by house. That's going to give you a similar interpretation for perfections. For when you say, this is my perfection year. If you're in a 10th house perfection year, career is going to be a huge theme. You can also look at where the progressed moon is, and that will also tell you a huge theme going on in a person's life. So, but let's look at what's happening in her life during the crescent moon. Well, she gets reelected. Fantastic. Now her progressed Mars is conjunct Pluto, so I'm sure there's a story there. Something about, having to really maybe learn how to show her teeth a little bit, learning how to be a little tougher, how to really own that pantsuit in the politics arena, so that you can be taken seriously as the first female and all of that. We also have, look at this, progressed Venus conjunct Neptune, ooh la la. And if you're thinking love, yeah, this is around the time that she's going to be meeting Doug, her husband. This is a progression that you would look at that and think romance. Absolutely. Her progressed Sun is also squaring her natal Venus. So we see double Venus activated by progressions. This is a big deal, and you can think about it too, in the sense of progress to progress, progressed Venus to progressed Neptune. You can think about it that however many years after she was born, let's see here, 48 years after she was born, days after she was born, there was a Venus-Neptune conjunction. So there's something about love there for sure. So that's kind of what's going on here. So we can see the growth happening with the re-election. Next, we have the first quarter phase. So now it's 2016. So again, another 3-4 years later this time. So now we know that the progressed moon is moving a little slower in this part of the zodiac at this time, because now it's 4 years later. So what's going on here? First quarter is a turning point, right? Time for growth, time to do something different. I have bigger dreams that I aspire to do. Here, she runs for California State Senate victory. And it's between these two that she actually gets married to Doug. So we know that those Venus aspects are correct. So she's married. So that was also maybe a way of, we could think about the turning point in the square. Maybe she was like, all right, I gotta get married. I gotta run for Senate. So she wins the California Senate seat here. She took the place of Democrat who held the seat for 24 years. So that's a really big deal. So we see her progressed moon here. And yeah, this is when she wins the Senate. Also, what's going on here is her progressed moon is in the 10th house. So this is big career themes. And another one here is progressed Mars conjunct Venus. So that is another Venus activation. So that's kind of steamy. So there's something really juicy going on here with her relationship. So what's going on with our gibbous moon? So this is where we're starting to bear fruit. It's looking juicy. We're feeling optimistic. We're feeling the potential. We've got friends. We've got colleagues. We've made a name for ourselves. This is when she runs for president. And she, of course, does not win because, it's not the full moon phase yet, but she becomes vice president. So that's really cool. Something else that we're seeing here is her progressed moon, or her progressed sun is lining up with the node. So we know that the next lunation is also going to be an eclipse. And that's something I would like to note here. And it deserves a whole other topic. But when you have a progressed lunation that is an eclipse, those are going to be very, very important because eclipses are fated. So there are some things that, and I have more examples of this that we can share, but there's something really destined perhaps around what's happening with your progressed moon. And eclipses have the effect of being really destined, not just in your own life, but even in the lives of others. So we'll look at Britney Spears. She's another one with her conservatorship. She's had some progressed lunations that are eclipses. So we'll talk about her another time. But yeah, what else is happening here is her progressed sun is conjoining the descendant too. So that's visibility. That's an angle. It doesn't matter so much that it's the descendant. It's visibility. It's the whole angle. The progressed sun is activating that whole angle. So there's something also here about rising into prominence, because before, sure, she rose into the 7th house, which is, technically the visible part of the chart, but here, it's above the descendant, which is the horizon point. So there's something extra visible here. The progressed midheaven. Look at the progressed midheaven aligning with the sun, the progressed sun and moon. This is a really big deal also, because if we think about the current transits right now, Pluto, transiting Pluto is activating this. So there's something really major happening here. The progressed midheaven, aligning with her sun moon. There's something, about, really just like coming into alignment with your purpose, the sun. And, so there's something really important that's happening there. Also, we see progressed Mercury. While it is retrograde, it is conjunct the world axis. So the solstice point is a point of visibility. Also, look at this. Our progressed, we'll talk more about the progressed planets in the coming sessions, but look how slow some of these planets move. And we're going to see Saturn, her progressed Saturn, change signs here very soon. And that does not happen for a lot of people. So that's going to be very interesting when that happens. Especially because, Saturn holds strength, domicile in Aquarius, but there's something about being in new professional territory when it enters Pisces. So we'll see. That could go one of two ways, I think. The other thing that's happening here is we're starting to see Pluto station. And pretty soon Uranus is going to start to station. So let's take a look ahead into 2023 when we see her progressed full moon. So this is going to be a time where she reaches some sort of peak. She is going to feel like she's took it as far as she can go. Maybe she has her sights on presidency. This is looking like it's going to be around the time of the primaries. Biden says he plans on running again, and that she will be his running mate again. However, he's very old. He may decide to endorse her, and she may decide to make a run. I also have other potential scenarios in that I've been formulating based on her progressions, based on her transits, based on those of Joe Biden as well, that I think that for one reason or another, she could even become president before that. Because we see a progressed full moon happening right on her nodal axis. This is also an eclipse. This is a lunar eclipse on the galactic center. Conjunct her ascendant. This is a really big deal. We've also seen Saturn progress into her 10th house. It's in 2023, transiting Saturn will also be in the 10th house, which can say one of two things. It can say, here's some responsibility you didn't know you needed, So if something were to happen to the president, that's what that would feel like. Holy shit, I'm being thrown into this role. This is a lot. This is a lot of pressure. Or it could be some kind of defeat, where it's hard and you have to figure out, what am I to do next? But there is something really fated here that is very compelling. I think seeing Saturn downgrade in essential dignity doesn't look the nicest. That's what makes me think like it could be potentially a situation where she does become president, but not in the happiest of ways. And I look at that too because I see Uranus. We see Uranus again by progression. When it's been activated, there has been shatterings of glass ceilings. And we saw that even too with the vice presidency. Let's see, where was it? Well, it was the new moon, and it was also when she became attorney general. And then we saw Mars activating it as well. But here we see another activation of it with Uranus stationing. And we'll talk more about planetary stations next time in greater detail. But I see Uranus and Pluto stationing. So there's something really compelling about that there's some kind of other emphasis around shattering structures. And Pluto, there's something maybe sad, or there's something about power, or needing, or being thrust into a position of power, or claiming one's power against people. Because if she were to run like she did before, we've seen how cruel people can be, and the state of the world is, there's a lot of haters out there. We'll just say that. So anyways, her progressed full moon is coming. So if you're watching this recording around the time that I'm recording this, or even in the future, it'd be interesting to look at what is happening for Kamala Harris in the fall of 2023, and even extending into that broader scope of the full moon phase. There's something around reaching the threshold in her political career. So reaching a max culmination in her career. So that could be presidency, and I made it, and look at me doing this job, how incredible. Or it could also be like, okay, I went as far as I could go, and here's where I am. Because the big question mark then is, if she doesn't become president, well, what's next after you're vice president? Do you go back to the Senate? I don't know. It's a full moon, so that doesn't really track for me. So knowing that she's in a full moon of phase, I know that she's going to continue to climb. Or at least try to. So at the very least, I think she is maybe on some level preparing herself for the role of president, as you should as a vice president anyways. So and there's a lot happening here. There's her progressed midheaven is opposite Mercury. Her progressed Mercury is also conjunct here. She just recently would have had a progressed Mercury cazimi. She's got Uranus and Pluto stationing retrograde. She's got Venus about to change signs. There's just a lot happening here. So when you see the progressions lighting up like that, as I mentioned in the first module when we were looking at the ephemeris, you know that it's a very active, very dynamic time in the person's life. And for me, it's more active than what was going on here when she first ran for president and became vice president. So I'm very curious, to say the least, and we will have to see. Thanks so much for tuning in with me today. For more astrology in your world, you can connect with me on all platforms at Astro Catherine. You can also head on over to my website, catherineurban.com, where you can book your next astrology reading. We'll go into depth into your natal chart, your progressions, your profections, your solar return, your transits, and beyond. You can also join my mailing list, where you can stay up to date with me on new classes as well as article drops. I look forward to connecting with you, and I'll see you next time.